Hey everybody, I am back with another no-line watercolor. Today I am using the new February My Monthly Hero kit, which is all about birds as well as all the add-ons. And I have just a bunch of my watercolor mixing dishes here that had leftover paint in them. And that's what I'm using, just random collection of paint today, in an effort not to waste any of my watercolor. I had the birds set up on the MISTI already. I actually have two other videos for you today, and I used this setup of the birds the exact same way in all three videos. And for these, I stamped them in antique linen distress ink. That's kind of a good neutral. And I didn't worry about whether or not the ink was perfect. You know, distress ink isn't really a stamping ink, and so it's not perfectly smooth, but it doesn't matter because it's all going to be colored. And for each bird, I started with sort of an idea of the color, but again, I'm limiting my palette to what's in the dishes on my desk, and so it's pretty random. But I started each bird by adding mostly water to the bird, just a little bit of color, so that I could drop in color like I'm doing here and have it bleed and feather out and just mix more smoothly with the base color of the bird. So in this case, I'm sort of going for a little ruby-throated hummingbird. But again, I'm not doing realistic birds here. I'm doing birds out of the dishes on my desk. But he was clearly a hummingbird, and so I went with sort of a classical color scheme. But by adding a lot of water first and then dropping in other colors, you get this smooth, soft combination of colors directly on the paper. And I like to work wet into wet. I haven't mastered it yet, I will say that. And sometimes I started here on the birds and the paper was a little bit too dry, and so I got some dark spots. But that's just part of you learning how to watercolor and me learning how to watercolor while you watch. You can't really, in my opinion, people are intimidated by watercolor, but to me it's one of the most forgiving mediums. I'm not good with opaque paint mediums. The transparent ones, I feel like, just give me a lot more freedom. Now, each one of these birds does have a little open eye, meaning that part is not the part that picks up paint. And so I'm trying to be careful to paint around those. I will come back at the end with a very finely detailed pen, and I'll add those eye details. But what I find with no-line watercolor is that you can make some really freaky animals and birds if you're not careful to make sure the eye is the right size, the eye is in the right place. So I am honoring the original placement of the eye by being careful not to paint around those. Now this little bird is using a little bit of Prussian blue and then some gamboge. I have a combination of Daniel Smith watercolor and Brusho in these dishes just from the last few blog posts. And so I'm mixing those two mediums, which is completely fine. They're both watercolor. And I'm just sort of alternating the color schemes, just kind of trying to keep each little bird so that he's contrasting with a bird nearby him. And here you can see the last bird I did, I'm kind of doing the opposite on this bird. Since they're imaginary birds, it doesn't matter. Up at the top left of your screen, I have the Old Holland watercolors that you will see in an upcoming video. These are beautiful watercolors and sort of new to me. I had read about them in an art forum that I'm in, and I really love them. They're very nice. I wonder if there'll ever come a day when I'm out of new watercolors to try. My bank account would probably like that, but until then, I'm just going to keep trying watercolor because I love it all and it's all different. This little bird, I gave him a little red cheek. I thought that was cute. And I'll come back and do the feet later. Those are very tiny little feet. I'm using my Escoda Versatil travel brushes. I absolutely love these brushes. They hold a point so well. So I can do these small details on these birds and not have my brush be flopping around and getting in the way of a good sharp edge on a beak or on their feet. Now with this red bird, I am going to add some shadows with this deep blue because he's kind of a larger bird and he needed a little bit more detail than just to be red. So I wanted to make that back wing look like it was really in the back. And it doesn't matter what color their feet and their beaks are. It's not like you have to make them like cartoons and all the beaks are orange and all the feet are orange. I'm just sort of making them neutral and somewhat matchy-matchy to the bird. Now, after a bird has dried, you can also come back with just a little bit of pigment and add shading like I did on that bird, and then feather the edge out with just clear water. On this bird, I'll start with only water, just to show you the difference. How smoothly that watercolor will blend into the water that's on top of the ink. And that makes for a nice, fun little plummy bird. Now I custom mixed that plum, and I'm custom mixing kind of a more yellow-green to make an olive companion to the plum. Just sticking with complementary colors, pretty much. And I'll give this little guy a shadow. I'm a fiddler when it comes to watercolor. I like to go back and adjust and adjust and adjust after an image is somewhat dry. Now this one looks like his top of his wings make him almost look like he's an owl, but then he looks like a regular bird on the bottom. But I love this dramatic wing. It's really nice, but I'm going to make him blue. If he is an owl, he's going to be a blue owl with sort of robin coloring. But see how nicely those all just blend and give you your own texture that you can leave. You don't have to force it. And then I'll have a little Delft blue bird down here at the bottom. We used to have the most beautiful bluebirds in upstate New York where I went to college in Rochester. It was so dramatic in the spring when they would come down. We don't have the same kind of birds down here. So those indigo buntings were one that I remember just loving. I was always so startled to see them. They're such a bright color. And then there is a bluebird up there that we don't have that's also a really vivid blue. And while I'm not a birder, I do run into birders on my walks, and those are very serious people about birds. I love seeing them in nature, and I love them even more when they're on a stamp. I like how they change throughout the year since we're in such a warm climate. We get your birds from everywhere else. They come down here for a little winter vacation. And so I get to see those passing through as I do my walks throughout the year. And I just love how it changes with every season. I also love the sounds. There's some nice little bird sounds outside my window right now, as a matter of fact. I don't know if you can hear them. Now this last little bird, he has a tuft on top of his head, sort of like some of my little finches in my backyard. And I'm mixing it more of kind of a plummy color here. And he's just so cute. They look so sassy with that little crest on top of their heads. They look like they're the birds in the group with kind of an attitude. I'm not going to lie. Now I'm putting mostly water down on him. He has a very skinny little tail, almost like a roadrunner-y tail. And so I have to be really careful to keep the brush kind of light off the paper to make sure that I can keep that point going. And I'll make him sort of the opposite bird. from the other bird there. That plum that I get with those two colors is so nice. It's such a natural looking color. I really like it. So he'll be the opposite of the little bird next to him, of green on top and that plum on bottom. And I'm adding a lot of the gamboge to the green just to lighten it up a tiny bit. But these shapes are pretty easy to do no-line watercolor with. They're nice, solid images. And they do a great job with no-line watercolor. So I need to add feet. You don't want to forget their feet. And like I said, I will come back and add details to this with a pen. As you can see here, makes all the difference in the world. So thanks so much for watching.